What go on, brothers and sisters? How's it going, guys? Sefir, I'm going to be preparing soup. I mean, I call it a soup, but it's very stew-like, so it's very thick. It has a lot of stuff in it. For the most part, I'll be using this. I call this an eggplant. You have another name for it. I can't remember it. I'm using courgettes as well. I've already chopped up the courgettes. So I've chopped up the courgettes. I won't be using all of these potatoes. Probably, I actually use it as little like actual white potatoes as possible. I might use 2 potatoes. I'm gonna use all of these carrots. I might ideally use a few more. But the main is the butternut squash and the sweet potatoes. That's the key shot. Ginger, not but ginger. Garlic, I use a lot of garlic. Garlic has tons of antioxidants, so I go straight in with tons of that. Onions, I might have said onions already. Spring onions, a lot of people don't use this. I'm using it a lot more. You see me growing some more there. Might use a little basil as well. Won't use any thyme. And of course, the pièce de résistance, motherfucking protein, man. And some mushrooms. I tend to use more gourmet mushrooms. That's actually just some closed white bush mushrooms, so it's fine. So all of this, at the end of the day, it's going to go into a big pot and it will get boiled and simmered down. I add the mushrooms right at the end because the mushrooms tend to melt if you add them too quickly. Everything else just goes in with some water, boil. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to be doing. But at the same time, I want to talk to you a little bit about the brain and my perspective. I want to tell you about my perspective on what the brain is, right? So the brain is what we have created computers based off, right? So we create things based off other things, right? So we cup our hand, and then we created cups based off that, right? And of course we saw dents in the ground with rainwater and said, oh shit, we can actually cup our hand, drink water, and then we said, oh, we can actually create a leaf and then a piece of mud and then pottery and then cups. And that's what the human brain does, right? It imitates. It never originates, but then what the human brain does, it connects the dot, right? So obviously the dent in the ground didn't have a handle, but then we saw with other tools about using handles, we attach the handle onto the dent. So the human brain works like that, right? Imitation, and then the innovation is connecting 2 different things that are being imitated. And that's pretty much all of humanity. The human brain, right? The human brain is essentially a constantly ongoing organic storm, right? So there's electricity flying around inside our head and it's constantly going, right? And it's constantly going because, well, it has to, right? Like fish have to swim because they're in the ocean. And when the fish stops swimming, it dies, right? The bits and pieces in the brain constantly keep going because if they stop going, then going. So we're always thinking, right? And we're carrying forward thoughts, right? And then there are patterns being formed in the head, right? So when it goes ABC, and if ABC happens at the same time as, let's say drinking a relentless drink, and every time, and I keep doing ABC, drink the drink, ABC, drink the drink, then every time ABC happens, and ABC doesn't know that there's a drink involved, but every time ABC happens, like the sensation of the drink to my mouth and to the rest of my body gets triggered, right? And these are memories, and that's how memories are formed, right? The storm is going, and when the storm correlates with something enough times, then the rest of the brain says, all right, every time that happens, that's what happens, right? So I'm going to peel the potatoes. You know, the really great thing is that potatoes, I don't think they don't really need peeling. I know a lot of people, especially a lot of English people, a lot of anally retentive people want to peel all of the skin off the potatoes, but the skin is where most of the nutrition actually is. Once you've washed it, which I have, for this one, and once you've washed it, I'd say leave a bit of the skin on. Adds a little extra nutrients to it, but I'm not really big into potatoes anyway. And all of this stuff has been thoroughly cleaned before it gets to the supermarket, right? Because you can't allow any bacteria in the supermarket because they need their produce to stay fresh looking on the shelves as much as possible. And then when you're buying non-organic food, I mean, they blast the hell out of it with radiation anyway, and kill all the bacteria, including all the good bacteria. So bacteria is not a bad thing. It's just like bacteria is just like people. Some are good, some are bad. Most of them just want to live their lives, you know. Anyway, I was saying brains, right? So the brain is this constantly ongoing storm of information happening, and every time there's a new sort of correlation, you sort of create this new memory. And the correlation's there, right? And the only way the memory sort of goes away permanently is if the pathway dies and is disconnected. And yeah, if you watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, they sort of talk a little bit about that, where they essentially just go and chop out all the different cells that were correlated with a certain memory, you know. That's why it's really hard to forget about somebody. And then when that person has caused you pain, that is again why they'll forever cause pain, and the only other way to do it is sort of overlay on top of that with good memories, right? But the pain will always be there, and that's one of the challenges of going through like really challenging situations with people. Is that the pain's always there, and that's why you can forgive, but like forgetting is almost impossible. And of course, what you do with forgiving is you recontextualize the pain as something that is helpful to you and your spiritual growth, and you try to understand the context of why they hurt you, and that is part of the forgiving process. And of course, part of the forgiving process, weirdly enough, because all of us are very, very self-involved creatures. And therefore, one of the main things you need to forgive when you get to a forgiving incident is to forgive yourself, right? You know, and people who have a very strong internal locus of control, like myself, right? I always tend to think, you know, what could I have done to not be victimized, or what could I have done to not have, you know, pissed off the person or gotten in the way of the person, or etc., etc., etc. So one of the best parts of forgiving is of course forgiving yourself. Like I said, we're all very self-involved animals, so a lot of forgiving the other person is about forgiving yourself and learning to forgive yourself. And then forgiveness, and of course when I talk about learning, right, is that you learning to forgive yourself is easier when you had a mom that forgave you. You know, like when you shit yourself, when you're growing up and you shit yourself, and how your mom reacted to you shitting yourself, super important. So I've done some big chunks here and some small chunks, because I want the starch of the potato to melt into the soup, because I don't really want to be tasting too much potato. But I like the starchiness, and it gives it a bit more thickness. Yeah, I'm not going to use this potato. So yeah, so that's a little bit about a lot of different things. But I'm gonna keep talking, right? So human brain, very, very good at imitating, correlating, and let's just say innovating, right? Which is to you know, use two different bits of information from two different events and sort of mashing them into each other. And of course, like, innovation is not, it's not like a superpower. Innovation is because, you know, the brain can't help but correlate, right? So you have one brain thought coming along and one brain thought coming along, and because they're both happening in your brain at the same time, they naturally get processed at the same time, and the brain starts connecting these things. It's like, whoa, what about this and what this, and they mash it together, right? You know, and this is what like some of the mental challenges that people have, let's say, you know, is when things get correlated in ways that lead to distress, right? Like when somebody hears colors and sees sounds. It's because their brain has correlated that color and a sound. So it's not like coming out of the ether, it's the brain sort of trying to make sense out of the world, and then making correlations that it would have better off not done that. The brain's just doing what the brain does, right? And you grow up and you are taught, you know, it's not coming out of nowhere. It's not some sort of curse, even though we talk very poetically. So human beings talk very poetically, and poetry is, you know, the expression of a lot interpretation. It's sort of using the limited using the human being's limited cognition and putting it together in, pleasing and pleasant ways. And pleasing and pleasant ways is patterns, right? Because we are really good at pattern recognition. So when we recognize patterns, that pleases us. So music, consistency. So if you're a consistent person, you're actually a very pleasant person to be around. People like consistency. And simultaneously, a lot of people can become addicted to inconsistency. And the addiction is essentially, well, if inconsistency is all that I've been taught, and inconsistency works, if my mom and dad have been inconsistent for 15 years of my life from birth, and I'm still alive, therefore continued inconsistency is going to be beneficial for me, and therefore being consistent is actually inconsistent to their experience, right? So if person A is used to inconsistency and person B is giving them consistency, being consistent is inconsistent with what person A is used to, right? It's a weird thing. Right? But this is the sort of what you call addictions to trauma, right? Is that when somebody has adapted to a maladaptive behavior. Yeah, I do things super rough, by the way. I'm still alive. I just cook the fucking food. The food sometimes is shit. Sometimes it's good. Most of the time, especially when it just goes into a soup. I think one of the reasons that we do soups is that you sort of balancing out everything. You take a little bit of the good, you take a little bit of the bad. It goes in a big pot and it boils for a long time. And the heat and the water is pure, heat is pure. That two purity sort of pulls out all the good, and then all the bad, well, it gets destroyed by the purity of the water and the purity of the heat. So I'm not super duper concerned about bits of oldness or bits of but then some of it just is not too good to fight too much corruption. You know what I mean? Like a little bit of corruption is good, it makes you stronger. A little bit of hardships is good, but too much hardships break you, and that's like the human body and the human brain stress response. Like stress is good because it's like, oh shit, there's this new situation, how do I deal with it? Oh yeah, I remember this old situation that I used to deal with, so I'm going to use what I remember from the old situation and use it to adapt to the new situation, and then of course, like, oh yeah, this old situation lasted 20 days, so I know I can survive 20 days. If the new situation gets to 40 days, you're like, that's when you get to the giving up part and like, fuck this, my body can't handle 40 days. But guess what? If you survive the 40 days, and the next time you're like, yeah, I can actually survive the 40 days. Like, you're not gonna let 30 days break you, and you're certainly not gonna make 20 days break you. So I'm just gonna get rid of almost like 90% of the potato. All right. Because that's the human brain, and it's all the human brain, right? You like to think is this sort of immortal spirit, but the fact is that the immortal spirit probably doesn't really give a fuck about your everyday like struggle as a human being. You know, your immortal spirit is part of the great immortal spirit, which is immortal, and by the fact that it's immortal, it literally does not care about your petty troubles in life. There are kids in Bangladesh and Nairobi and Ukraine and China that are suffering it far worse than the people that can watch a YouTube video and are on Twitter. And so the human spirit absolutely knows, humans are gonna suffer. You're gonna suffer, I'm gonna suffer. You have suffered, I have suffered, people have suffered worse than every single person watching YouTube, able to watch a YouTube video. And they've suffered much worse in the past. So the human spirit's like, the immortal spirit is absolutely fine with that, And so now that the immortal spirit is taken care of, your brain and your body, your mind is just gonna have to figure out the rest and learn to deal with all the fuckeries and learn the hard way, because you can't learn the easiest way, right? Easiest way is to say, oh shit, if this person did it, then I can do it, which is actually the thing that it sounds trite, but it's true. If other people can do it, you can do it. There's nothing special about you that makes you weaker or less resilient than other people. Your resilience itself is a learned behavior. And your brain just needs to experience the experience and then step back and process the experience. Right? It needs to wrap its head around what the fuck just happened. Don't want to get too far into politics, but the ability to explain what the fuck just happened is the sign of a good leader. Right? A good leader is a leader who can say, oh, that flash of lightning, that was Zeus and he was angry. That roll of thunder, that was Thor and he was fighting the giants. And then of course, like to make it entertaining and tell how fighting the giants was a good thing, and how Thor is not this horrible thing up there to damage mankind, but somebody who is jestful and actually pro-human being. Those are the things that people want to hear, is that these forces that don't give a fuck about human beings are actually for the human being. So, telling a little bit of a lie. And that's why great leaders are great storytellers. And the second part of that is to assure people that everything's going to be all right, no matter what the decision that everybody makes as a collective and as individuals, it literally is gonna be all right, So of course, like, like a man like, presidential leaders can come on stage and say, oh, this thing that sounds batshit crazy is we're gonna do it and everything's gonna be alright. If he can tell that story and entertain people, make them feel relieved, by his confidence, by his tone of voice, by appealing to, whatever, then this is a very heavy sweet potato oriented bit. I'm gonna get myself another container. So it's a big, I cook big. I cook big for the week, and that means I don't have to cook every day. I just come in and eat food. The great advantages of being single is that I can cook for myself and the wife can be like, Dad, it's boring, I want pizza. I mean, in my head, every day I said, Dad, it's boring, I want pizza, but I just don't argue with myself too much. I'm like, mate, gonna eat this fucking food, it's healthy. If you can get to 45 and look this good, you eat pizza. But I didn't get to that age looking at eating pizza. So, believe you me. But every now and then, sneaky pizza. Anyway. So the human brain, and of course the human brain sees the confident person, and the confident person being crazy, obviously crazy according to early 20th century standards, and he's doing all right. If this crazy person can build a fucking tower in New York City and basically buy Eastern European models and does all right, then I want a tower in New York City. This is a great strategy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all the white bits, grow myself some more spring onions. Free. So you say, so people just want somebody to imitate. You know what I mean? Because they're looking for strategies that help them to continue living. So it makes sense, you know what I mean? So that success is very important for leaders. Helps the brain. The brain knows that, right? I mean, there's so much about the brain that I could talk about, but talking about this electric storm, that every now and then, electric storm brings together two things that shouldn't work together, but it appeals to people and they're like, shit, alright, maybe I can do that as well. So I've never actually recorded while preparing food, but I prepare food a lot. And I don't know, I started making YouTube videos, so why not? Why the fuck not? So I'm doing it cheat. I'm using the thing, I'm chopping it. I'm just using my scissors, cutting it directly into the pot. And it works, So why not? I know, like, your mom probably never, she'd curl up and cry if she saw what I was doing, and she'd probably never want you to be involved with a man who just takes the scallion and who called spring onion scallions, Yeah, she'd never want you in that household. Because according to her and her prejudices, which would come from a certain background, that's just going to kill you, right? But she's never actually seen that kill you. As a matter of fact, her mindset is something that was taught to her by her mother, so she respects her mother and her father, and her father respect their mother and father. But the mindset is coming from a time in Europe where there was so much disease everywhere, and people used to, you basically use vegetables and wipe their ass before selling it to you. So of course you'd get sick. This is being basically bought from a lab clean room, and it has so little bacteria on it that probably it would be more healthy if we had a little bit more ass scratching with the veggies. But it's a mindset, and human beings are built like that to ensure that the human race continues surviving. The reason you're doing stuff is because the human race is programmed to continue surviving, and it's a very, very deep piece of programming that exists beyond the human race. Like every single plant and animal out there has the exact same program, which is to continue surviving. And of course, like we are very conscious. And part of our brain is this persistent why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the correlation. We're always trying to find what's the correlation. And of course, how do I take advantage of the correlation? How does this correlation help me to survive more? So the brain is constantly asking why. Like most animals don't have to ask why. They get by plenty enough just doing it. But the human brain is all about that why, seeking that intellectual advantage of doing something. I guess as for the why with this, I like to chop up my onions. I use red onions instead of white onions because the white onions I'd just be crying right now. Thankfully red onions don't make me cry. That onion booty makes me cry sometimes. But the why of the brain, that correlation of the brain. So I would probably do 2 onions with this, just to make sure that everything is fully taken on board by the chicken. I would have used chicken wings, but I decided to use drumsticks this time. I saw my housemate using the drumsticks, and the drumsticks look so small and pathetic that I'm like, let me use them instead of the actual wings. Hardest parts coming up, which is the garlic and the this guy, butternut squash. So human brain, amazing computer. We basically created computers to look like a human brain. We're trying to imitate the human brain. Human brain is this organic correlating machine and simplifying machine, right? And again, going back to what makes a good storyteller, what makes a good leader, is that ability to simplify complex situations and to give people just enough information to know exactly what to do. So going back to the example of Thor fighting the giants, which is thunder. Thor's fighting the giants, so everybody, you don't need to run back to the cave, you don't need to run off into the hills. Thor's got this. Chill out, right? And everybody said, oh, I know what to do now. I need to chill out. I don't need to run away from the thunder, right? It's a really simple story. Thor fighting some giants. So don't run back into the cave. And of course, if the storyteller didn't tell that story, then everybody would be like thinking for themselves, what's happening? And sadly, the more intelligent people who, on the law of averages, happens to be women, the more intelligent people would start to stare into the abyss, and they would start to see that the build-up of charge between the earth and the sky and the vastness of space beyond that builds up to a certain point where the electric potential between the two elements would grow to a point where literal electricity would leap up from the ground at the same time, clash down from the universe and the sky. And should a human being be trapped between that sort of potential of these two giant forces, that human being with their small little electric storm going on would be fried into something that would be like a completely masticated piece of oven chicken. Like, the smart people, if they overthink it and if they get it, it's gonna terrify them. They're gonna run off into the forest, they're gonna fall down a ravine, they'll get eaten by predators. So you don't want the smart people thinking, right, and overthinking things. You want the smart people to listen to the story, chill the fuck out. The chances of that happening is really small. Like, yeah, don't go through the geography and the geology and the astrophysics and the physics and the statistics just to know you need to sit the fuck down, right? And a lot of people, the way they think is like, well, if it even have 0.1% chance, I'm going to run off into the forest. So the story, the simplification, it works. On the balance of things, it works, because you individually frying like a piece of chicken is all comes out into the wash in the grand scheme of things. There's gonna be plenty of humans that didn't fry like a chicken, and you need to chill the fuck out and accept your death. Like, I know you are programmed to think you're super important, but you're not super important. There's an entire human race that will not be fried by that freak lightning bolt. So if it's you, accept it. If it's not you, which it most likely will be you, well, listen to the story, hang out with the other human beings, hopefully meet somebody who can stand your neuroticism and your overthinking, or your blithe lack of oversimplification, or your blithe oversimplifications, and your absolute dumb dogness. Once you find somebody who can stand being around you, you just do the natural thing, you reproduce and have another generation of neurotic brains to try figure life out with. So at the end of the day, like keeping people together, keeping people connected in the tribe is more important than facing the statistical reality and the risk for individuals of potentially facing extinction. So getting people together into communities is a very important task, and leaders can do that, and the leader needs to be somebody who at least appreciates stories. The leader can be a good storyteller, and I think good storytellers can, once they know who their audience is, can convey ideas in a way where the ideas can be taken forward to make actions, right? And storytellers keep people entertained, right? Keep them out of the harsh universe out there, and keeps them together, gets them together, have them communicating with each other more, maintaining communities, and that is essentially, and of course the maintained communities continue to go forward with God's blessing. So human brains are fucking amazing. I certainly love them. I mean, that's why I have studied psychology for I'm thinking I've been studying psychology forever. Even though the way I tell the story has been the opposite. Because I've been studying psychology as psychology moved from being the Carl Jung and the Sigmund Freud, which is, individuals want to know, why they piss their pants or are having bad dreams. And it's like, you the individual, we need to find out, it's all about your mom. And it's so weird, like the very first thing that they found out, it's about your parents, about the person that raised you, person that first put some nutrients into you, right? That person that first, gave you life, the person whose life you came from, the person who you're basically a part of your mom that was rejected when your mom found out that you were also part of your dad. Yeah, man, like your dad's genes had to trick your mom's genes for long enough and be acceptable to your mom for long enough for you to take root, literally take root, a tree inside of your mom's body. And then because we're all about the brain, right? The brain and the head is so big in human beings that your mom had to push you the fuck out before you got so big that you would have destroyed your mom's birth canal by coming out of her. Because in the rest of the natural world, right? In most of the rest of the natural world, like fish, for example, and even like antelopes and giraffes, they're born ready to go. They are born ready to start running, fighting, all of that. There's a couple animals, and human beings are probably the prime example. A lot of animals come out like completely helpless, and then we come out completely helpless because we're sort of prematurely born. We're born because our brains are so fucking big, and our skull, which protects our brain, is so hard and big that we literally just rip mom out and kill her, and she'd only be able to have the trick once. And for two adults to have one child and then one of the adult dies, that doesn't seem like a great deal. So in order for your mom to have little sis, little bro, or to have you, because you were little sis or bro, she needed to get you out of there ASAP, as soon as you were viable. Because the human brain is literally the human being. Everything else about us, our teeth, our limbs, are sort of quite inferior to other animals. The human brain is what defines us as a very unique species on this planet. And we're going to keep talking about it just for a little bit more, because I've now gotten to one of the best bits, which is the garlic, man. For me, I absolutely love a bit of garlic. There are actually better ways to do this garlic, so I'll try a couple of different ways. So the first one, I just cut the ends off and strip the skin off. I don't know, you know what? Maybe you could eat it with the skin, but if you know a lot, if you've done garlic a lot of times, you could try, but then the skin is so tough that sort of spoils the bite. So I'd still recommend getting rid of the skin. Even though it might be quite nutritious, it just doesn't taste super good when you bite into it to have the skin. So I get rid of the skin. That I cut off the bits that just spoil the bite. It's not unhealthy. It won't kill you. And again, the reason why I chop garlic up, because I could eat whole cloves. Again, it's just like that little bite. You just put it in your mouth, and does it taste good as you do it. So yeah, almost there. That's the last little bit. And as I'm cooking, can talk a little bit more about the human brain. So yeah, the human brain, because human brain, right, is actually special. And I was listening to I think an astrophysicist talk about like what the hell is happening? What is the human brain itself imitating, right? So life imitates other things, and there's so much imitation that happens in nature. That and the way crystals work, the way fungus works, the way that the animal kingdom works, and how life looks like a tree, like the tree, right? The tree, the plants out there, and the tree of life look so fucking similar, but they didn't coordinate to look like that. Like trees and all the individual species of trees didn't decide that they'd both look tree-like, and even the so-called multiverse, and the way we conceive the multiverse, doesn't accidentally look like a tree, and the way our brain looks doesn't accidentally look like a network of roots, Oh, and just to add this in, it's not accidental that the Death Star looks like the brain, and the trench run doesn't look like the corpus callosum, which is the splitting thing. None of these things are accidents, you know. Like, there's no coordination. There's no Masonic conspiracy theory about all these things looking so much like each other. You know, we are formed, and even our consciousness is an imitation of something that has imprinted onto us from something that we cannot perceive or even possibly understand. So we are conscious, perhaps in the same way that the universe is conscious. How can I say that in a better way? Like, the universe knows that the universe exists the same way we know that we exist. We are part of the universe, and we know that the universe exists. So the universe knows that the universe exists, even through us. But potentially, the universe knows that we exist without the necessity of us knowing that the universe exists, right? So there could be, like, you know, if I disappear, the universe still knows that it exists because there are 8 billion versions of human beings out there, right? In a limited way, all the other plants and animals out there also know that the universe exists. So even if all the human beings were to disappear tomorrow, the universe still knows that the universe exists. And what we know is that it's quite possible that, yeah, looking for more garlic cloves, because garlic cloves are the fucking best, man. Like, whole food is the fucking best. So you got to understand that the universe absolutely knows that the universe exists. The universe is more than capable of knowing that it exists. And then the universe, not by using man hands, but by using, you know, some sort of drive to knowledge and drive to understanding, is capable of creating, you know, and it just naturally creates things which imitate it, you know. And it doesn't necessarily imitate it with hands and feet, but it imitates it with motion and with manipulation, because we are manipulating creatures, and then of course the human brain is really struggles to comprehend itself. So the universe, I think, is still figuring out what the fuck it is. And of course, to us, you know, just like how I am to like the baby version of me. Like, if the baby version of me didn't understand nothing, but I know so much more than the baby version of me, then believe you me, the universe is a version of the human brain and the human consciousness that is far beyond our knowledge and understanding. And you know, like, when you ask a baby to draw a house and to draw a family, it's a stick drawing, right? And we are the baby, right? Everything we create, even in the most marvelous imagination and recombining of elements and ideas and concepts and things, if we are still drawing stick figures, you know, other human beings are stick figures, and every computer, every AI, every advanced intelligence is still just a stick figure compared to the reality of the universe. And our imaginations can take us into these little meandering, sort of but it's all limited. It's limited by the fact that we understand and we've experienced so very little. So this is all soup product. I'm going to now fill this with water and then add the chicken in 15 minutes, and then after 45 minutes add the mushrooms. Oh yeah, forgot. Very important. Man, I've seen people use salt and make like leaves taste good. It's crazy, man. Like salt's such a cheat code. Yeah, literally started off with just licking rocks. You know what I mean? This is probably one of the first drugs we ever had. No wonder cocaine looks like this. It reminds us of licking salt, you know. But that's a different story altogether. Maybe I'll tell you about that on a different day. But yeah, add the salt, little bit of pepper. I'm going to run to the store and get myself some Himalayan salt and some pink pepper. For some reason I like it. But I'll do that as soon as I add the chicken. That should give me a good time to get to the store and back. You know, make eyes with the checkout girl. I'm kidding, there is no checkout girl. It's a fucking robot that checks out stuff. Yeah, man, the human brain, fucking amazing. I am totally in love with the human brain. I'm in love with your brain. You're in love with, hopefully you're in love with your brain as well. I hope you liked what I showed you, which was how to do a nice big soup. It's a chicken soup, good for the soul, as they say. And yeah, like, you know, all this whole food is good for your body, good for your mind. It really reconnects you with what actually makes us up, which is, you know, protein, starch, carbohydrate, and sugars. And that feeds you for the week, feeds the individual for the week. It's much more fun when you're doing it with other people as well. But I decided to do it with you, and that's why it was fun. I hope you found it fun too. Yeah, you can see my washing there. You can see my sink. You can see the basil. I'll chuck some of that in as well. Good show. Thank you very much. Anything else that you would have liked to see, you can put in the comments below. Or if you have a chicken recipe or a soup recipe I could try, why the fuck not, man? I need to eat good food. So, ciao guys. There you go. Brain food.
Alright, bless. Take care, peeps.